the 1990s, real-time strategies were popping up like mushrooms after rain. Games like Command & Conquer and Warcraft defined the genre's boundaries and were so successful that almost every subsequent game was a more or less blatant clone. One of the better-known knockoffs was KKND, but did the game actually deserve attention back in its days? And is it still worth playing today? The story of KKND drops us into a post-apocalyptic world where a handful of military survivors are pitted against mutated freaks, the radiation-drenched descendants of humanity who use giant mutated bugs as weapons. The premise isn't bad at all, but the plot itself is barely developed. You pick a side and simply plow through 15 missions perfection, trying to wipe out the opposition. If you are looking for explanations of what happened, why it happened, or what motivates each side, forget it. On the other hand, the post-apocalyptic setting heavily dictates the visual style. Some of the Fallout-esque scenery, like passing a crumbling, overgrown Statue of Liberty, look awesome. Unfortunately, these set pieces are few and far between. Most of the time, you will be fighting on a map that only differs by terrain color, desert, grass, dirt, with the unit movements restricted by standard rock cliffs. Classic 90s design, really. What is really great is that the game doesn't take itself too seriously, which shines through in the brief cutscenes between missions. A soldier, a commander, or some grotesque mutant brief you on your next objective. By the way, a severe head gave me quite a jump scare once, while bizarre news stickers flash across the screen. You will get advice on what sunscreens to pack, what to do on the beach during military operations, a programming host for a toaster, or whether a bridge in the area is suitable for bungee jumping. This kind of humor in a war game may not be for everyone, but I personally love it. It loudly proclaims, "Hey, I'm just a game, don't take me too seriously." What you do have to take seriously and what really drags the experience down is the AI. Not that the enemy AI is dumb, quite the opposite. It surprised me. When I destroyed the enemy's wake-up factory, they immediately flooded the map with cheap infantry, completely wiping out my already battered offensive. The computer works at 100% efficiency, pumping out massive production queues and swarming you with a huge wave of troops, turning the game into a brutal torch trial. Which brings me to my main complaint, friendly pathfinding, which is downright tragic. Moving large groups of units is pure agony. If there is more than one path to a destination, your troops will scatter in every direction because they detect a bottlenecks, reroute on the fly, and literally send their comrades to their deaths. It's not as noticeable with infantry, but with heavy vehicles, it's a nightmare. The worst are the bridge-heavy missions. In one instance, I needed to oil cross a single bridge while my harvester was returning to the base. But I was also trying to push my army of crab tanks forward. It became a logjam of catastrophic proportions. On the flip side, I have to give the game credit for being fair. At first, I was pulling my hair out. I thought that the computer is cheating, because while you have to build your structure adjacent to each other, like in most classic RTS games, the enemy can build everywhere it pleased. You clear out a tower, push into their base, and suddenly those same towers are shooting you in the back because the AI instantly rebuilds them. You either have to leave guards on destroyed base tiles or play aggressively fast to wipe them out completely. Initially, I assumed that AI was just cheating and spawning buildings out of thin air, but that's not the case. It just gathers resources hyper-efficiently, and its oil fields are massive compared to the modest patches near your starting position. Time is always on the AI side, so you have to move fast. If you manage to destroy its harvesters, its production grinds to a halt, making victory infinitely easier. Taking control of the enemy's oil fields early on, if you have the units to spare, is pretty much the golden strategy. I'm not sure if this kind of resources logic applies to other RTS games of that era, or if the enemies usually have infinite money, but in KKND, securing those fields is practically the only key to winning. The game is brutally hard, and some missions cross the line into downright frustrating. Mission variety is very standard. Most objectives boil down to destroy every living and non-living things on the map, though you occasionally get cooler tasks like escorting or ambushing a convoy, rescuing a key unit, or surviving a time siege. Still, destroy all prevails, which gets tedious when you are forced to hunt down that one star harvester you missed somewhere in the fog of war. As for the units, there is a surprisingly healthy variety and the factions feel distinct. Sure, it's not StarCraft where factions are completely asymmetrical, but the survivors get standard infantry, SWAT teams, rocketeers and saboteurs that siphon enemy funds, while the evolved get archers, shotguns and pyros. And that's not even counting the heavy armor, while survivors roll in light bikes, heavy rocket launchers and massive chain gun tanks. The evolved bring giant speed-firing scorpions, artillery elephants and ultimate missile-launching crabs. The building upgrade system is also worth mentioning. Instead of unlocking new tech naturally as time passes, you have all base structures available early on, but you must manually upgrade them via a center tech building to unlock better units and features. For example, if you don't upgrade your HQ, you won't get a radar map. I spent the first half of my Survivors campaign assuming the game just didn't have a minimap at all, and trust me, you really need it. Finally, a quick note on the audio. Even though the game came out in the era when full soundtracks weren't a given, Command & Conquer had set the bar so high that even lower budget RTS titles needed a proper OST. KKND delivers a gritty, heavy-hitting soundtrack that fits the Raj post-apocalyptic vibe perfectly. So it's time to summarize the pros. So at first, diverse unit roster, the tech building upgrade system, and gritty post-apocalyptic atmosphere. And what are the cons? Horrible and even one more, horrible pathfinding. Then, poor friendly unit AI and no difficulty settings. That is everything for today. So that was KKND. And since you can never have too many strategy games, we will be taking a look at the Command & Conquer Remastered Collection soon. Or maybe even KKND 2 Crossfire. But next time, I'm thinking sin. So bye and see you next time.